This is something that had always held me back. I couldn't like focus on uni. I couldn't like focus on my relationships. I couldn't focus on anything, hold down a job. I thought, what's the point? Like, what's the point in this life?
Some transgender people in the UK are taking massive risks to change their gender without medical supervision.
And I thought to myself, I want this. Like, I need this. This is something I need. So I'm just going to do it.
It's becoming common for trans people to self-medicate gender-affirming hormones like testosterone or estrogen, which can be easily bought online. Most say they're doing it out of desperation because it takes years to get an appointment with NHS gender identity specialists.
In that 4-year wait, in that 2-year wait for young people are harming themselves, people are killing themselves, and this has to stop.
Concerns are also being raised about the medical treatment of young people, as the demand for gender identity services has significantly increased in recent years.
We don't really know what's going on, why the increase in these referrals to the service has gone through the roof, and we don't really know the implications of these treatments.
Hunter was 23 when he started self-medicating hormone treatments to begin his female-to-male transition. He'd been told by the NHS's gender identity specialists it would be at least a year until he could get an appointment with them.
One of my friends who was transitioning, they no longer needed their testosterone gel. So then they basically gave it to me. When I first started doing it, I was getting hot flushes and my mood I was very temperamental, but then I thought to myself, I want this, like, I need this. This is something I need, so I'm just going to do it. My soul, or my personality, the person, whoever I am inside, is male. So that's why I need to do this to obviously align my how I feel inside with my outer body. So that's why I took matters into my own hands.
Desperate for some help with his transition, Hunter eventually began paying an unregulated online clinic in the UK to prescribe him hormones and remotely monitor his transition.
I can confidently say that I would not be here today if it wasn't for them, because it got to that point where I just thought, what's the point? Like, there's no value to this life that I'm living. It's not a real, like, I'm not living a life. Like, this one thing is holding me back, stopping me from being the best person that I can be, like my 100% true self. So I thought, what's the point? Like, what's the point in this life?
Hunter's experience of transitioning is not unique. The government estimates there are up to 500,000 trans people living in the UK. Not all of them will need or be seeking medical intervention, but the queues at gender identity clinics across the country are growing, and many people are turning to self-medication while they wait. In England alone, almost 12,500 people were seen at the NHS gender identity clinics in 2018. Sky News research from February 2019 shows that in England and Northern Ireland, there were at least 4,500 adults waiting to be seen at 6 of the 8 clinics that provided complete information. These clinics have seen a 28% increase in referrals from the previous year. That amounts to almost 1,000 additional patients. The high demand means patients face on average a 2-year wait time to be seen. In the worst case, patients face a 3.5-year wait to be seen at the clinic in Northamptonshire, and the only clinic in Northern Ireland has stopped taking patients altogether. According to trans healthcare expert Dr. Ruth Pearce, one reason it's taking so long to get seen is that funding for transgender healthcare services has remained stagnant, while the number of referrals has exploded.
There's also a growing number of trans people visible in the public world. And so what's happening is as more people come out, you've got more trans people visible, so other trans people are more likely to come out. And as a consequence of that, you've got these growing waiting lists.
Jaden Lowe was a young trans man who'd been waiting for treatment for years. He took his own life shortly after his 18th birthday. He'd recently found out that he was now at the back of the queue for the adults' gender identity service. At the inquest into his death, the coroner said that delays in his medical care were a significant factor in his suicide. Shortly before his death, and with the consent of his father, Jaden had begun buying hormones and receiving treatment from the same online clinic as Hunter. The clinic is run by doctors Helen and Mike Webberley from Abergavenny in Wales. They were fined £12,000 in 2018 after the Wales Health Inspectorate found that they were operating without a licence. They then moved their clinic out of the UK to Spain to continue operating. The Webberleys have been criticised for treating children, but they've always maintained that their practice was legal, administered by healthcare professionals, and therefore not akin to self-medicating.
Jayden had been going through the NHS Young People Services for many years, and at each appointment he was promised that his medical intervention would come soon. And eventually, when he approached the age of 17, at his appointment they turned him away and said that he was now too old for young people services, and he had to be transferred to the waiting list of the adult services. And that's when he came to us saying that he just could not wait any longer. I don't know what happened in the interim, and I think other personal circumstances intervened. But Jayden had been waiting a long time on empty promises with the NHS by the time he came to us.
So your business is actually taking advantage of this gap in the market where treatment on the NHS is taking so long, desperate people are coming to you for hormone treatment.
These people shouldn't be having to go privately for care. But you talk about the long waiting list, and people imagine that it doesn't matter if you wait 4 years. It doesn't matter if you're a young person, you wait 2 years. But actually in that 2 and 4 years time, while people are waiting, time moves on and things are happening to those people. And we hear terrible stories of very high rates of self-harm and suicide in these people. And that is what's happening while people are waiting.
I got back in touch with trans healthcare expert Dr. Ruth Pearce to find out about the risks of self-medicating.
Well, the problem with self-medication is that there are associated health risks, and these need monitoring by someone with relevant medical expertise. So self-medication can be unsafe and it can lead to harm, but given the alternative harm of doing nothing, people will continue taking risks until better publicly funded trans healthcare resources are available.
When you're trapped in the wrong body, it's like it's not a real life. Like everything that you want to do, you're not able to do it. It's like whenever I wanted to pursue like any hobbies or interests, my mum would always be like, no, that's for boys. No, so I didn't get to experience things that I actually would enjoy, and then she'd always sway me to doing more feminine things. And obviously it gets to a point where it's like you go for so long like through your life, each year after year after year, no difference. You try everything to try and make it better, like take up, pursue goals, like going to uni and things like that. But it doesn't work out because this is one thing that your society's not seeing you the way that you should be seen.
This is Noah Adams. He's a popular YouTuber who's paid thousands of pounds for his gender transition as he couldn't bear to wait years to be seen by NHS services.
That looks so good!
He says he gets messages every day from young people asking if they should self-medicate their transition with hormones bought online.
Every day I'll get DMs or messages of people asking me how to get testosterone and saying that they can't go down the medical route because they're either too young to go privately or because the waiting list is so long. People will ask me all the time, like, how do I get testosterone? And those are messages that I have to respond to. I feel like I have to respond to them because obviously you need to tell these people that they're putting themselves in a very, very dangerous position if they're doing that.
So how did you fund your surgery? Because you went private, right?
Yeah, so initially I was going to go publicly, but because the waiting list was so long, I decided to go private. A lot of the money came from my YouTube channel, which I'm lucky to have. Obviously some of it came from a GoFundMe I made, so I crowdfunded a lot of money for my surgery. I also sold merch to get money for it, and luckily I have parents that are able to afford for me to have donations from them as well.
So what surgery have you had done?
I've had top surgery on my chest. I had it in January, so it's like 7 months old. I had that in London, and yeah, it's just got a few scars, but...
Noah was paying £50 for his monthly testosterone shots through a private London clinic, but he's now treated on the NHS and paying prescription prices. We're hearing about people who are going through a mental health crisis and even self-medicating hormones, partly because it's taking around 2 years to get inside a gender identity clinic like this one here in London. But when it comes to the children's service, the opposite accusation is being made. People are saying it moves too fast and that some children are being fast-tracked through the system to changing gender. After these accusations came to light, Marcus Evans quit his role as the governor of the only children's gender identity service in the country. He fears that cuts to local child and adolescent mental health services result in some children being poorly assessed and then pushed on a path towards transitioning.
What's happening is when someone comes in, they may have a whole mixture of problems, social phobia, they may be on the autistic spectrum. They then say they've got a sort of gender problem, and they're pushed into on a sort of path towards a specialist service, which has got a 2-year waiting list. By the time they arrive at the service, they may be in a terrible state, feeling that they are very fixed on one particular problem, and they're putting pressure on the service to give them medication in order to stop these hormonal developments. My whole point would be this intervention should just be slowed down. We don't really know what's going on, why the increase in these referrals to the service. It's gone through the roof. And we don't really know the implications of these treatments.
I spoke to the mother of a child being treated at the clinic who said that far from being fast-tracked, in her experience, the diagnosis and treatment of her daughter has been frustratingly slow. Charlie's daughter came out as trans, aged 10.
I mean, she'd gone to nursery in a dress for the entire time she was there. And if anybody came round a special occasion, she'd always go and put her best dress on. Then when she was a bit older and she realised that it wasn't okay, she really tried to conform. But I'd never sort of said there was a thing called being transgender. And everyone was saying, oh, well, he then will probably be gay. And like I said to you, I remember thinking, none of the gay men I know wanted to dress like women, but hey. So I suppose when she suddenly came to the kitchen and said, Mummy, I'm a girl, I know I'm a girl, it was, I mean, I don't know, you just go, oh, okay, because this is a kid, and it could be anything, you know, it could be like, I'm an astronaut or I'm a unicorn. So, but there was something really different about how she said it. This impression being given that children are walking up to the GIDS clinic and they're going, yes, here you are, have some hormones, like distributing sweets, and that is just so far from the truth. It's very, very, very difficult to get your child seen. It's very difficult to get them approved for any kind of intervention, and you keep having to go back and, you know, no doubt when my daughter is 16, if she still feels the same and she wants to have hormones, we will then, because that's when they're legal, we will then be going through this whole process yet again to be certain that she still feels as she does, which is vitally important, because as parents and as clinicians, no one wants to make a decision for a child that, heaven forbid, they might regret.
As more transgender people come out, the demand for trans health services is expected to rise. If action isn't taken to reduce the time patients are forced to wait and receive assessment and treatment, it's possible that there will be more cases of self-medication, poor mental health, and tragedy in the near future.
I would not change what I did, definitely not. Like, it's something I need, I need this, so.